Good morning. Get everything organized here. Right before the new year, Home Office, which is in Golden, Colorado, invites ministers to submit topics for Sundays. And so I submitted one, science, superstition, and common sense, and they thought, oh, that was a really good idea. So today at most of the centers around this country, they're talking about this subject. So I hope I get it right. I met a minister yesterday, and she said, you wrote that topic, I saw your notes, and it was wonderful. And I thought, I better do a good job on this one here at home. So here we go. You know, science is always my favorite topic. I just inhale it. I just love it so much. And so I worked for at least 4 months to put this Power Up Through Affirmative Prayer, the 40-Day Prayer Challenge booklet together, workbook together. And it's very scientific. And when you have science, you usually have equations. And the equation is C plus B equals A. So if you want to write that down in your workbook, page 16 in this workbook. Notes from the Sunday talk. C plus B equals A. C is what we conceive, what we think about, what we have in mind. B is what we believe, not just a scattered thought, but what we believe. And A is what we achieve. So C plus B equals A. When we give our full power to something, when we really believe it, it's like saying a great amen. Amen on that belief. And the energy that goes along with that belief attracts like energy. And it begins to manifest in our life. So I brought with me this cute little stamp. Tara Steele, if you remember her, she's now a minister, but I did a talk on the Great Amen years ago, and she had this stamp made, Amen, so you can stamp it. And I thought that was really good because when we believe something, we're stamping Amen all over our life. All over it. Think about how many things you dislike that you're stamping Amen on. How many worries, how many frustrations are you going, Amen, amen, amen. And the universe hears you and goes, all right, more of that. C plus B equals A. Superstition, now that's a belief that's usually based on ignorance. Fear of the unknown. Might be a little bit of that going around in the consciousness of our country. Things happen by chance, stuff just happens. But we can inadvertently bring superstition into our life when we're saying, I'm really afraid. Amen. I don't know if it's going to turn out. Amen. Oh, I love this little stamp. Someone this week was telling me that they've been asking everybody, how do I get rid of the flu? And they've got everything under the sun, this kind of oil, this kind of incense, this kind of that, and they're buying everything. And they still have the flu. So there's a little bit of superstition going on about how to do this. And last night, Paul and I were talking, and he said, did your mom ever put Vicks Vapor Rub on your chest when you had a cold? Do I have an amen? A few. I don't know if it helped. Do you? I don't know. So the one thing my mom did do when we had a sore throat, she would make hot water with lemon and put in a shot of whiskey. Now, for kids, it was horrible medicine. I might do it now just for fun, but back then, it was definitely a superstitious thing. But if you have ever had a cold and you're doing a prayer, an affirmative prayer or a treatment, do you usually throw in everything plus the kitchen sink just in case God missed that one and maybe come on to something else that you're thinking about? Well, the truth is there are laws in this universe like gravity and the law of cause and effect. And when we're uncertain, when we have doubt, the universe says yes. Here's another thing to have doubt about. So the truth is out. We do not have to drink hot water with lemon and whiskey to get rid of a sore throat. Just hoping it'll chase away the flu too. Just hoping. And then there's the third part of this, common sense. Anymore, I really wonder what's common sense. Common sense is thinking in a reasonable way. With today's world, I don't even know how I would put that in a box, actually. But if we break a leg, it would make common sense to go to a doctor. If we're ill, it would make common sense to get some medical attention. But when it comes to making common sense out of our life, when we're trying to shift our ideas about life, where is common sense? For some people, common sense is believing in a God that's very judgmental and you better look out. For some people, it's believing in a God whose ego is so big you have to praise and adore him. Doesn't make common sense to me. A God that judges me as I'm trying to learn how to live in life doesn't make common sense to me. Yet now in this philosophy, I know not only is it serious business, but it's very sane to believe in a God that is good and loves me no matter what. Because I've always got another day, another chance, another opportunity. I was going through my library last night looking for how to help with this talk, and I came across this little book I did not realize I had. It's by Deepak Chopra, because anything with his name on it I usually buy, but it was a little book and tucked back in, and this is part of what is called his Essential Series. I didn't even know he had an Essential Series. And this one is Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desire. So he's going to talk about the law. He's going to talk about science. And the premise is that nothing random happens. There may be these coincidences, but they may be small coincidences or large coincidences. But if we sit back, sometimes we can actually take a little pencil and see where that may have come from. Maybe it was a call for help. Maybe it was a call for love. Maybe it was a call for us to look within ourselves. Chopra says there's 3 levels of existence. The first one is the physical domain, then is the quantum domain, and then the non-local domain. Physical, quantum, non-local. Cher's taking notes. Good for you, dear. So the physical domain, obviously, it's the visible domain. It's me and you and chairs and books and lights and action. It's what we experience with our 5 senses. And one of those things is time. It moves from the past to the present to the future. And it's another thing that everything in our life experience has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So it's the flow of what we see and experience with our 5 senses. And it's run by many laws in the universe, like gravity and the law of cause and effect, because cause is anything that produces an effect. So this physical domain shows us the energy we're putting into our thoughts and beliefs. And then that takes us to the quantum domain, which consists of energy and information. It's that part that we can't really touch. Do you ever try and touch your mind, touch your consciousness? It's not solid things yet. But our thoughts feel very real. If you woke up from a dream and you think, wow, I hope I don't have that dream again. They seem very real at times. But if you remember what you learned in school, that everything that we can see and feel and touch is really made up of molecules and atoms. And it's really energy in fast movement. I had the experience of that probably a year after I came here, and I was eating granola in my kitchen at home. And all of a sudden, my mind was up in the corner. My visual mind was up in the corner watching me. And I was like, I was barely moving. And that's because this energy vibrating in the world vibrates at the speed of light. And that's why we don't see it. We don't notice it. It's like we're living in this big bowl of energy soup. And we're swimming around in it, and we can't touch it, but it's really there. This law always assumes C plus B equals A. So here's a question. When you came in this morning and you picked up your program, maybe you opened it up to see what was in it. Who was doing that? Who was reading the program? Because in our mind, we see words on a page and the mind tries to analyze it. Well, what is that word? Do I know that word? How does that word fit in a sentence? Does a sentence make sense? So there's this analysis going on all the time. Can't put our finger on it, but it's there. You are experiencing a presence within you. I find that fascinating. It's a force. It's the quantum domain of information and energy. The next level of existence that Chopra talks about is the non-local domain. This information and energy that we use and experience in our life comes from this sea of possibilities where everything is possible. It's beyond time and space. It just exists. It's pure potential, and that's why Einstein called it really spooky stuff. At the Chopra Center, Deepak wrote about one of his researchers, and he was trying to do studies on the cells in his body when they're taken outside of our body. So he put a lot of his saliva in this test tube, and he hooked it up to this centrifuge and spun it around a lot so the white cells separated. And then he thought, I wonder what would happen if I cut my hand, what my white cells would do, because they're over here in this test tube. So he started looking around his office for a knife, a lancet to cut his hand. And he had these white cells hooked up to an EEG, monitoring him. By the time he found a lancet and came back, he hadn't done anything, but the white cells were just going crazy at his thought of cutting his hand. That's the spooky part. It's all interrelated. It's all connected. Our human body is amazing because we have about 100 trillion cells in our body, and each one has its own little brain, and it's monitoring what the other cells are doing. And to also put it in perspective, that's 1,000 cells for every bright star in the Milky Way. Now, it may make you feel a little bloated, I don't know. But all these little cells keep humming around and doing their duty, and some are in our liver, and some are in our stomach, and some are in our blood, and they coordinate. They really do. If you've read any of Bruce Lipton's work as a research, cellular biologic research, and it's synchronicity at its best. So we have this body that really works hard to live in harmony with itself. Forget about a cold or flu. Really works hard to do this. But there are times when we unintentionally screw it up. Now, I did this 2 weeks ago. I had so much work to do in the office. I was stressed out. I was hard at work, and I got a cold. The body just said, can't do it anymore. And it made me slow down, that's for sure. But the other things that unintentionally cause our body to get out of harmony with itself is stress, fear, frustration, anger. It's important to recognize the connections between our mind, our body, the universe, our C plus B equals A, what we're drawing to ourselves, because it's all connected. Well, yesterday I had the honor of officiating at an ordination ceremony in Sacramento of a minister that I've been mentoring for 3 years. We've talked every other Friday morning at 7:30 faithfully and talked about her ministry and how's it going. But she is one of the most fascinating people I've ever met. She's a tour guide in addition to being a minister. She takes tours with elderly people. Anybody over 60 is welcome on her tours. She goes everywhere. North America, South America. She'll do a 7-day train ride in Mexico. She goes through the Panama Canal next week. She goes up to British Columbia, and they rent cabins in the woods. They go to Alaska. She's been everywhere in Alaska with these elderly people, and they're just so excited. But they're also very opinionated. If you know any elderly people that might be a little bit of opinionated and strong in their beliefs and critical maybe at times. But Ramona is her name. She doesn't mind hearing strong opinions. She'll just say, wow, that's interesting. She listens. She suggests how things might really be. And she brings out cultural awareness. Like when they're in the Black Hills, she's researched all the history of Native Americans, and she'll tell the stories. And she loves to challenge their superstitions, and they love that. And she gives them an honest assessment of history, because so much of our history is maybe not so true. A lot of other things have happened throughout history that are good to think about. So her tours are always filled, and they always have an adventure because things don't always go the way she anticipated. But she uses them as learning lessons, as opportunities to see that the unexpected can also be grace in action. So what happens? All these people who are Ramona groupies, I would say, there's hundreds of them. They call her when their husband dies. They call her when they need a blessing of any kind. They call her when their pets are ill. She's does wonderful pet blessings. And so what a great ministry is that? And so whenever we've talked, I'll say, well, what was your greatest experience in ministry this week? And she always has a good story. She recognizes the connection in our lives and shares that with people who know nothing about the science of mind. And they love it. Well, a couple weeks ago, Sue and I invited you to fill out a prayer card, and 73 of you did. We were really grateful for that. We were also grateful that so many of you were so honest that you do have fears, worries, stress, pain, anxiety, sadness, self-criticism. Then when you turned the card over, it was wonderful to see what you wanted. Love, peace, beauty, joy. But in reading that, I thought the task in my mind is, it's nice to turn the page over, but how do you logically get there? What's the method that you turn the page over, you read that, and you go, got it, and your life changes? And so that's why I put together this treatment that's on that yellow piece of paper in your program. Because today, more than anything else, we need to trust the universe. Read that when you have time. And if it helps you connect the dots between the one side of the prayer card and the other, I will be so happy. But if it doesn't, if it brings more questions, or you go, I just still don't get it. How do I shift my life so that I can be that person and feel that way? That's what our ministers and practitioners are for. That's what they're trained for. They will listen. They will inquire. They will teach principle. And then they'll do an affirmative prayer for you. And then they'll see, does it make sense? Do you get it? And they'll stay with you until it does. That's how powerful this is. For so many people, yesterday it was so cute at the Sacramento church. They are going to do Walter Starkey's book, It's All God. So they had a flyer, and it has, It's All God, and it's a picture of Trump, Kim Jong-il, these big people around the world, and it's all God. I was so proud of them to do that, because it's true. We just see it all in different ways, because there is another way. There's this one universal power, and it's a power for good. And sometimes it's easy to forget that. one of the other things they do in Sacramento, because their congregation is about 25% Hispanics, 35% African American, and white, and then a whole bunch of other, and they have a real melting pot of a church. And so everywhere in this church you see God's name, Allah, Elohim, sacred grandmother tree, higher power, divine intelligence. It's so beautiful to see that. And this power is all there is for all of us. It's not individual powers. So, it's up to us to take care of our mind. It doesn't help to beat ourselves up for what we may have done. It's up to us to replace those thoughts with something affirming in our life. Everything is either a call for love or an expression of love. Sometimes those calls can look very clumsy when we're really sad and we're calling out for love, and we may not do it very sweetly. We may lash out in anger when we're really needing some love. So the truth is, we believe you're whole, perfect, and complete. If you just got out of jail, you're whole, perfect, and complete. If you're addicted to something, you're whole, perfect, and complete. Because we're looking at the soul that walks through that door. We're looking at that part of you that is so perfect. So science continues to support in greater ways this thing we call this energy soup of energy, universal energy. And we have many classes that teach you about this. And the most important thing is to trust in the universe, no matter what, whatever we see. Because if you can trust in the universe and know everything every day is good, the next thing to do is stamp amen all over it. And so it is. Thank you.